Right, the month and a half of working sort of evenings, weekends, and I did have a week off in that time as well. It's all paid off. We've got the hothouse up, we've got the plants in. Let's have a look. So as we come in, obviously we've got steps going down. We've got a selection of potted plants. A lot of these palms aren't looking too special. These are all palms that have been outside all summer, and it's not been the best summer to get growth from sort of the more tropical palms. But we've got some Areca palms here, Dipsas lutescens. We've got a big pot there, and we've got a big pot the other side, looking ever so slightly rough. Hopefully we'll get some good recovery on them before they have to come in for winter. So I'm expecting all the tropical palms and plants in here to be in here till maybe mid to late October, depending on how cold the nights get. If we get a mild October, you know, it could be into November. Obviously it's going to heat up during the day, but it's the nighttime temperatures when it cools down. As long as things don't get sort of below 8 degrees in here, I'll be happy to leave all the tropicals in here as long as possible. Anyway, so I'm not going to go obviously for all the plants. We've got a lot of sort of tropical and half hardy palms here, and sort of random alocasias, and some lemon trees which we grew from seed a couple of years back, which took a bit of a hit over winter this year, but seem to be recovering well. So we've got some of the bigger potted palms in this area here. This one I grew from seed, and I'm still not 100% sure. I got the seeds muddled up. It's either a king palm, but I'm rearing towards the side of a Cuban royal palm for that one, because there's a lot sort of quite sort of elongated petioles and whatnot on that. So yeah, so like I say, a lot of these palms aren't looking too special at the moment, but hopefully with the heat in here we'll get some new growth like we're seeing coming out. We've got a Christmas palm here, Edenidia morellii. Got the foxtail, which has been out all summer. That has pushed out a new leaf, and we've got another spear coming there, so hopefully that will open up before the winter comes. We've got some smaller palms here, like I say, not to go for all. We've got a lot of sort of phoenix species, some of the more unusual ones, Sylvestris, Rupicula, Reclinata, that sort of thing. We've got the flamethrower palm, so I'm hoping this is going to throw out the new spear soon, open up, and we'll get a nice red new leaf on that for a couple of weeks before it goes off to that sort of mid to dark green. So yeah, that's a sort of collection of larger potted palms there, smaller on the bench, and a sort of similar situation this side. A lot of sort of smaller palms, random stuff. Got a reasonable size alocasia which we bought from B&M a little while ago. That's kicked out several leaves since. Doing quite well. It's, you know, good size leaves on that, sort of pushing 2 foot, I'd say. I only put all these plants in it yesterday. We've already got another showing up. I can't see the viewfinder, but we've got a spider anyway, which has decided to make a web, which is not a bad thing. We'll keep the flies down. Yeah, so again, we keeping the flies down. We've got some carnivorous plants here. These were outside, and due to the very cold winter and sort of slow start to the season, they've only just sort of started kicking into full growth. So we've got them in here. We've got some Sarracenia, which are quite nice pitcher plants. Obviously the Venus flytrap there, and we've got a I think this is a Sarracenia purpurea, so that's like the purple when they sort of fully mature. Again, we've got various sort of tropical palms and some small elephant ears, sort of mainly alocasias. Got the Bismarck palm, which we grew from seed 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now probably. with a couple of random seedlings growing in it as well, which I'm guessing they're, well, still too early to guess on that. I'm thinking they're sable minor, but we'll see. Yeah, it's doing quite well. Starting to go palmate to an extent. We've got the fishtail palm here, which suffered a bit over winter. This is sort of a house plant over winter, and that's really sort of dark winter. We didn't have much sunlight, so that struggled. But yeah, it's put out a new flush, and some of the leaves on here are sort of a bit more mature, as in instead of just like the one fishtail, I'd say we've got sort of several, 3 or 4 coming off each leaflet. So yeah, it's getting looking a bit more like the large ones you see. Again, yeah, we've got the pygmy date palm there, alocasia. We've got red latan, which is a really nice palm with the red petioles and sort of red vein into the leaves. Quite nice. Got the Livistona rotundifolia. That has been in the conservatory over winter, now it's in here. We are in for quite a warm week where I am. It's going to be as hot as it's been this summer. I mean, we're looking at sort of mid to high 20s every day this week. In here it's already 32 degrees with the door open. It does drop down. I have a couple of little windows open at night to let the air flow through until I get a ceiling fan rigged up. But yeah, so it does cool down at night. You know, we've got just under 13 degrees there. It does get, if I don't open the front door, it will get 40 degrees plus in here, so I've got to be a little bit careful with the door. I need to open that during the day and just have a couple of small windows open at night, just to keep the air flowing until we do get a ceiling fan rigged up, which I'm going to get. It's in the post hopefully, and we'll get a big ceiling fan in the centre just to circulate the air around. Right, so we've got a couple of seats here, so we've got a nice place to relax at the end of the day when it cools down a bit. Nice cold beer, sit down, and we've got the double seat this side. So we've got, you could call it a posh greenhouse. I'm just going to call it the hot house. Yeah, so I think it's little bit more than your standard greenhouse. There's going to be a nice seating area as well, especially on those sort of early spring days and autumn days where it gets a little bit cooler in the evening. You can come in here. I've got a sort of floodlight rigged up here. It's motion sensor, so as you walk in the light comes on. That's actually, it's only 10 watt, but surprisingly it does, you know, when it's dark it does light up the place quite nicely. Plenty enough for a bit of mood lighting if you like. Yeah, so like I say, plenty of relax opportunities, you know, sit down and chill out, as it were, at the end of the day. Right, so let's come to the very end here. So just past the seating area, this is sort of more or less the permanent plantings. We've got, let's say, a couple of potted plants here. Got the Liquewala grandis doing okay, and we've got a small Metallica there, Camadoria Metallica, and of course it wouldn't be complete, a tropical house, without a coconut palm. So we've got one in the corner there in a pot, and the recently purchased alocasia, which is a really good size. Done a video on that. That was only $7.99 from Home Bargains. Real good bargain, that one, for the size of plant. I still haven't got around to potting it up. I will do some point today. Right, so let's get to the permanent planting. So I had to bear in mind that we're sunken here. So when we're talking about permanent plantings, they're going to be, this is like a bed which is planted up all year round. We've got some tender plants in here which will take low temperatures but not really a frost, and I've got some colocasias and alocasias which I'm going to leave in and see what happens. So yeah, being sunken, obviously I'm fully aware of the fact that in the winter we get long, cold, damp winters, so it could and this whole planting area is open to the soil underneath, so the roots can get down, and so it's going to be sort of a damp level of soil. So what I've done is I've put a lot of drainage in, loads of gravel, so if the roots sort of get past the raised area into the actual ground, if they do rot off, the main root system will be fine. I'm not really quite sure how it's going to go, but yeah, so what we've done is to match the seats, sort of rattan effect. I had an old garden bed which was a bit worse for wear, so I decided to scrap it, and I thought, well, hang on, that's going to match perfectly with the seats. So we've used that, so we've got the two sort of quarter circle parts and a long straight part, and I've just staked them in the ground, and obviously put some liner around the front and around the wall area so we don't get too damp. Really free draining soil. We've got, I used a 100-litre bag of perlite, quite a good free draining mix of compost, along with, mixed 50-50 with garden soil, and like I say, loads of perlite, so good drainage. So if it does get damp in here, and bear in mind this used to be a pond, I have got bottom drains, so any moisture build-up can escape through the bottom drain, so it's not as if we're going to be sitting in water, but I'm fully aware that it could be damp ground underneath the raised area. This is why I decided to raise it up. So a lot of these plants are tried and tested. We've got the bird of paradise and giant bird of paradise and the Kentia palms, things like that. I've tried and tested. I've had these in the summer house, overwintered for the last couple of years, just kept just above freezing and no problem whatsoever. So I'm hoping they should be okay. It will warm up on a sunny day in winter in here, but it is going to get cool at night. We've got a heater and it will be kicking in when it gets below 4 degrees, so we're not going to get below 4 degrees, hopefully. So we have got sort of the electric box here, which is just a switch box. Everything's hardwired in. So we've got the floodlight, the thermostat for the heater, and the ceiling fan. So it's all hardwired in, so that they'll be on all the time. And like I say, the heater will kick on and off as and when needed. So back to the planting. So like I say, free draining. We've got a bit of a mix, because obviously when you're talking bird of paradise, they are quite drought tolerant, but I think in the heat they want to be well watered. They do much better. So this is, like I say, free draining but moisture retentive. And the main thing is a lot of the elephant ears, collocations and allocations I've got in here will need to be kept dry and basically bone dry over winter when it's cooler. But in the summer they're going to want access to water and the humidity, so keep it well watered in the summer, bone dry in the winter, and we'll see how we go. So a lot of these collocations, for instance, let's take the Redemption or the Pharaoh's Mask, for instance. These in the US class them as zone 7 to zone 8, which we are 8B where I am in the UK, but it's obviously not the same situation. So I'm hoping with the drier and the frost-free environment and drier environment, I'm gonna gamble and say they'll probably be okay. So yeah, we'll see on that. So we've sort of mirrored the planting to an extent. So the main plants are bird of paradise, giant bird of paradise. We've got a Kentia palm each side. We've got a big climber. This one is a Monstera decursifer, which is similar to Monstera deliciosa, but the leaves are a little bit different and they're quite cold tolerant. We have got Monstera the other side, so we're going to have some, eventually in a few years time, some really big climbing leaves all the way up to the ceiling. Now, the idea is there's sort of going to be a bit of a jungle area at the end here, so we're going to have some big leaves coming up with the Monstera on the other side as well. So in a few years, you know, that's going to fill out if we don't get a stupid cold winter and the heater doesn't work as well as I hope. But the idea is there's going to be a bit of a jungle end. And yeah, so we've got some sort of half-hardy plants. I say half-hardy, these are all house plants, but we know that we've got a bit of cold tolerance on them. So yeah, I've got random plants here. We've got a shell ginger, and I will say I tried to restrain myself to an extent with the plantings in here, and it's newly planted. Things are going to fill out, things are going to get bigger. Some of these elephant ears have got potential to get huge leaves, so we'll see. But restraint is not a word I know when it comes to plants, so I just jump straight in. So my theory is, you know, some are not going to make it, some will, and you know, if we lose a few along the way, that's a learning curve, and some will thrive, some won't. So I've overplanted at the moment, and we will see what sort of gets through the winter. Stuff like the, obviously, spider plant, for instance, we know that's going to make it through no problem. I've had these outside over winter and they've survived, so that's not an issue. Some things that won't, obviously the colocaceas will die back. The alocaceas, now this one is one I've had, again, overwintered in the summer house for the last few years, and has kept its foliage even cold and dry. So I've got one either side. I brought it as an adorer, but I'm not sure if it is, because I've seen them and they seem to have upright pointing leaves, with these are more sort of drooping down like the colocaceas. But it is an alocasia, and it's got a degree of trunking to it, and so I know these are pretty hardy, so I'm not concerned about them. So yeah, I mean, we've got some rough looking house plants which aren't been doing well in other areas, so sort of last chance saloon. If they die, they die. If they survive, it's a bonus. This little cordline fruticosa is, I think it's the kiwi, and they're really nice leaves when they look good, but we'll see on that. It's got some little ones coming out. So, and like I say, going back to, I've got the shell ginger that was in the summer house over winter last year, so I know that's pretty hardy, that'll come back. And stuff that I'm not even sure about, this is a house plant, it's White Fusion, so I've got one of them each side, which really struggled even as a house plant, you know, with light levels being such a highly variegated plant. So I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. It's sort of half dead. We had a couple of shoots on it, so I'll plant them in there anyway. Stuff like that, we're just going to give a try. And other things like the begonia, we know that should be fine. Calathea tricolour, so again, sort of variegated. I mean, we've got to bear in mind, you could class this, I mean, it's going to be very bright, but not really too much direct sunlight. I mean, this time of year the sun is low, so we are getting direct sunlight coming through these windows in the morning, but come sort of mid-morning to midday, the sun's right above and at the front, so we're not getting direct sunlight in any of these plants. We're just getting good natural light without, you know, direct scorching sunlight. Got another Calathea here. Couldn't tell you the species, I just like the leaf on it. Really interesting pattern on the leaves, so I thought we'll give that one a go. Like I say, I've got the Monstera there, which hopefully was cutting off a really big plant I had a couple of years back, which got too big, so I had to get rid of it. But this is just a little cut, and that's been doing quite well. We've got the little mini Monstera, I call it, the quite often called monkey face. These are just cuttings from the main plant inside, and I don't know if these are going to survive the winter, but they're just cuttings. They've cost me nothing, and if they do survive, they'll be nice climbers to go. I've got a few of them dotted about in there, in various places, so they can sort of work their way through the foliage if they want to. So the only thing that is not permanent in here is the centre palm, which is a type of Cyagrus. It's not your standard queen palm. It is a Cyagrus coronata, which is a similar hardiness, but it's a bit nicer than your standard queen palm because they do get sort of a silver underside to the fronds. And again, this has been outside. So queen palms at this size, they do tend to look a bit sort of scraggly. You know, the leaves, the fronds are, you know, they are what they are. But I mean, I'm hoping that'll be hard enough to survive the winter. It's getting a bit too big to bring inside now. It's sort of touching the ceiling, and yeah, the top of the fronds tend to die off in the house, so that's going to stay out at winter. That is still in a big pot, due to the fact that I'm fully aware that one day, in a couple of years, this is going to be far too big for this, and that's going to hit the ceiling. So at that point, I can just pop the pot out and put something else in there, smaller palm. And the idea of this one is, if it does survive the next few winters and it starts getting really tall, what I can do is, it's always going to be a potted specimen, and I'll lean it lengthways, so we've got 20 foot to play with lengthwise in this. So excuse me, over winter we can lay it down sideways and should survive fine. So yeah, that's the only thing that's not permanently planted. Everything else is in there good and proper. So yeah, we've got, I will just touch on this point. I didn't buy this plant. This is a Pharaoh's Mask, kindly given to me by a local plant enthusiast like myself. I've bought some plants off him in the past. He's bought some off me, and he kindly gave me this one. Starting to look quite nice. Shame that the latest leaf has decided to open that way, but yeah, that's doing well. Some of the black leaf colocaceae not so well. The Redemption, as soon as I sort of got it in here, I knew it was going to happen. Spider mites, and certain thinner leaf colocaceae really do suffer with the spider mites, and this is one of them. So we start to get a bit of pink on here, and you know, they just zap the energy out of the plant. So we have been spraying them every day and trying to keep them under control and trying to get rid of them. We have got a new leaf coming, so we'll see what happens with that one. Hopefully we'll get a nice bit of pink in there. Yeah, to counteract the black leaf, we've got the marigold here, which it's done quite well really. This has actually been in the garden all year, from a plug plant at the start of the year, and you know, brought a little plug plant, and we got, actually this is the main plant from it, and we got a couple of offsets, so we've got one of them each side. Yeah, so just like the goldy light green leaf with the dark leaf looks quite nice. We have got some other dark leaf ones, colocaceae in here. We've got some diamond heads, which pretty good for over winter, and they tend to come back every year. And we have got the sapphire black gecko, which is a little bit of a thicker leaf, or well, not really, but it seems like it's not been hit so bad by the spider mites. So I am gonna, that's gonna be the biggest issue with the colocaceae in here, because that is gonna dry out pretty quick in here with the heat. I mean, I have got the misting system in here which I can bring into play, but I'm still looking for a timer on that, so occasionally I can just whack on the misting system, which is along all the roof parts, all the way along the roof, so the whole place can get misted. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know, some of these plants, like I say, are going to be touch and go, like the Dracaena here. I mean, that's a house plant. I don't think that's going to survive the winter, but that's in there anyway. Like I say, I've got a lot of house plants, which I don't really worry about house plants during the summer because I'm more into the gardening. But you know, over winter, house plants, I mean, don't do well for me with the low light levels. So yeah, I'm sort of thinning out my house plant collection as such anyway. So why not do it in a way which, you know, we can learn what is going to be surviving in cooler conditions and what won't. But yeah, like I say, a lot of experimental plants, a lot of plants I know will come through. Yeah, so that is the plantings really. Yeah, so in a few years time we'll come back and look at this point and think, yeah, it's filled out nicely, or yeah, half the plants are dead. But like I say, I like to experiment. Another thing that I know you're all thinking, these giant bird of paradise, they, in a couple of years time, are going to be hitting the roof as well, and they will be, but they're already starting to pup. So my idea is, you know, at one point or another, when the main plant gets too big, I'll just chop it out and let the pups take over. So that'll just be a constant game of letting the biggest grow out, and as it gets too big, we'll cut it down and let the pups take over. So in that sense, yeah, we'll just see how things pan out. I'm looking forward to it being a bit of a jungle, like I say, with some of the climbers. And I have got other cuttings as well from house plants. So I have got like Philodendron Silver Sword just at the back there. So again, I don't know if that's going to survive the winter, but if it does, that'll give you a nice contrast with the silvery green foliage. To, you know, we're looking at different foliage types, different sizes, shapes, colours, tones of green, whatever. It's going to be eventually a big jungle. Hopefully this end will be a big jungle. And like I say, the rest of it is potted specimens, which a lot of these will come in over winter, the tropical palms. So that'll be a lot of this will be shuffled out into the house, and some of the stuff that needs protection over winter will be shuffled back in here. So that'll be a switch over in spring and autumn. But yeah, in general, yeah, I don't mind a bit of shuffling about, but in general we're going to keep it. I could fit a lot more plants in here. You know, I have got, the idea is we've got a ledge all the way around, which is 3 inches, so I get a lot of small pots along. Basically I could fill up the whole ledge, which I may do in spring with cuttings or propagations or seeds or whatever. So I've got plenty of room along there, and I have widened it off at this end with a bit wider shelf both sides. So I've got the potential to get a lot more plants than I have got in here. And also I've got obviously space under the benches as well to store stuff if I need to. So yeah, so it's a good size space, and I'm looking forward to things filling out and looking how, you know, how well they grow, how well they don't grow, as it were. We'll see. Yeah, it's all new to me. We've got this opportunity, so let's do some experimenting. Right, I think I've rambled on enough. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.